Hello YouTubers, today's video is our return trip to the state park in Grand Haven, Michigan. We'll start out this video by a drive through the day pass area of the Grand Haven State Park. I still haven't learned to clean my windshield after I pulled down a suction cup mount. For that, I apologize. As I drive up to the gate, on the right is going to be the state park campground. On the left is the day use area. And of course up front is Lake Michigan. When we were there in August of 2020, the gate was unmanned, and it pretty much remained unmanned the entire time we were there. It's my guess, or from what I understand, that since the bathhouse and concession stand is closed down for remodeling, that they're granting free access to the day use section of the state park. You still need to get a pass to get into the camping area. Since it's a little cool during this particular time that we were there, the lot's pretty empty. There are a few people on the beach, but normally this lot is full, especially on the weekends when it's basically hard to find a spot to park. Having the bathhouse and concession stand closed for remodeling doesn't help either. There are porta-johns located on the beach as well as food trucks, so you do have some place to change, use the restroom, and also get a bite to eat. I'm not sure what arrangements were made with the park, but these are the same three food trucks that are always here every time we come to visit. Directly across the street there's some private homes as well as some rental cottages that is available for somebody who doesn't really have the capabilities of camping out. Right on the left is another restaurant which seems to be pretty popular, especially for the breakfast crowd. This is the Grand Haven bathhouse and concession stand, which is totally being gutted out, so there's absolutely no access to it whatsoever. Water's pretty choppy, as you can see. It's been kind of a breezy day, and I believe the red flags are up, so there is no swimming because of riptides. No worries, no sharks. At the end of the state park parking lot is the Grand Haven City Beach. It's also a day use only, and it's available for the public at no charge. After I get turned around, we'll take a tour through there as well. drive all the way down to the main gate, so I won't bore you with this long drive. I'll cut a lot of it out in editing. As you can see by the lot, the park is pretty small, so there's not an awful lot of parking. But they do have a little concession at the front of the building there, and they also have restrooms and changing rooms. Not a bad park. It works pretty good as an overflow for the state park. And also, if you don't want to pay for the pass to get into the state park when it's required, this is always free. Before I show you this campground section of the state park, we're going to take a drive down to the business district of Grand Haven. On the left is the channel that enters and exits Lake Michigan and handles a lot of the boat traffic to and from the marinas. On the right is we just passed several condominiums, and then we just coming up on the American Legion post, which is probably one of the nicest American Legions that you'll ever see. Grand Haven is also the host to the U.S. Coast Guard, which is located right here on the left-hand side. Frequently, you can see them going out and doing practice rescues and maneuvers with their boats. Also, the city of Grand Haven hosts the U.S. Coast Guard Festival, which is very popular for a lot of people in the area. The festival is a week-long event, which usually includes fireworks, craft shows, and a lot of other events. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, it was canceled for this year. Also, along the boardwalk next to the channel, there's an awful lot of restaurants and shops that you can stop in and visit. In fact, most of the business district of Grand Haven consists of restaurants, bars, and stores that you can pick up souvenirs at. It's a very big tourist-driven location. Another major attraction for Grand Haven is a musical fountain, which they have almost every night, with the exception of, because of COVID, this year of 2020. They've restricted it down. They're only going to do it a couple of times a week, only between Sundays and Thursdays, and they won't tell you when they're going to do it. Don't ask me why or how, but that's just their way of thinking. They seem to be taking advantage of COVID by doing a lot of construction in the area. On the right, by the way, you'll find the U.S. Post Office and also their local VFW post. Now, as I said before, Main Street has quite a few shops, specifically souvenir shops. Of course, there's the usual restaurants and banks. But as you'll see when we get down here on the left, because of COVID-19, they've expanded the seating area for the restaurants and reduced this down to just a one lane only, which heads west. And in order to go east, what you have to do is to go around the block, bypass the restaurant area, and then get back onto the street. This is a section I was talking about where the city of Grand Haven has expanded out the sidewalk or the pedestrian area to allow the restaurants to provide more tables to their customers. On the hilltop straight ahead on the other side of the channels is where the musical fountains are located. Again, they're not playing them but a couple times a week now because of the virus. Now, if I would have have turned right at that last intersection instead of turning left, we would have gone down to the marina area where all the charter fishing boats are all moored. Now, the day that we happened to be there, 5 boats had just come in and they caught a total of 24 salmon. After they take the time for the fishermen to show off their catch, they go ahead and divide them all up amongst 4 of the different tables and they start to fillet them out. Typical costs for these charters are anywhere from $500 to $700, depending on how far you go out and how long you're there. As we head back south from town, which is only a couple of miles away towards the campground at the state park, you'll see the channel on the right. Again, there are several shops as well as the Coast Guard station. The channel has an awful lot of traffic on it from time to time, mostly boats going in and out. You will see freighters passing down through there, as well as a lot of pleasure craft. Of course, there's awful lot of charter boats that are going to and from the big lake. You'll also see as you go along, there's little pull-off areas where you can park and walk down to the boardwalk. That boardwalk, by the way, runs all the way from the center of town out to the end of the pier. Very nice walk, good exercise for you. A lot of little shops right along the side there as well that you access from the boardwalk. There's a couple of ice cream places and a couple of little souvenir shops, but it's a great place to kind of take a leisurely stroll, get some exercise, and really enjoy the views. Now here's where we enter into the campground of the state park. On the right there's a little parking area for day use. Also, it's good for overflow. Quite often the people who are going to walk out by the beach or want to swim by the pier and near the campground will park in that area. If you do have reservations to stay at the campground, keep in mind it's check-in at 3 o'clock and check-out is at 1 o'clock, and it's strictly enforced. I know I reviewed this park last year as a little shorter review, and I thought since I came through here a second time, it'd be kind of nice to do a little update on it. As you can see, they're packed in there pretty tight. A good alternative, if you don't like to be parked so close and you still want to be by the beach, a good location is the Holland State Park, which is only about 20 miles away, and there's a lot more room. I'll be doing a review on that in the next couple of weeks. Now, as I said, the spots are very small. In fact, we didn't really have room to park the truck in front of the camper. I had to back it up next to the camper on the right hand side because that's the only place I really had room to keep it clear. They do offer electric, which would be either 110, 30 amp, and they do have 50 amp. I also highly recommend taking a dog bone with you. If you run 30 amp, take your 50 to 30 amp conversion dog bone, because that's what I found I had to use because there's a problem with the 30 amp outlet. There's also some potable water stations throughout the park. There's not a lot of them, but if you're smart and you get a copy of the map of the park, it'll show where those water stations are at. So it'd be a good idea just to park near one of them in case you're running kind of low on water or you find you might have the need for it. Even though there's only about 200 spots, which are including the tent spots, there's 3 bathhouses in this particular campground, all of which are all updated, very clean, and they have private showers, which makes it rather nice to use, especially if you want to conserve your water in your individual camper. Even though Marilyn used a shower in the camper, I preferred to use the ones in the bathhouse because the hot water was very hot and it was very plentiful, and I could take nice long hot showers. I like the dump station on this particular park because you can enter it from when you're coming into the park or when you're leaving. There's 2 stations, all have potable water as well as flush water and easy access for dumping trash. As I said, this campground is one great big asphalt parking lot. So there are not any grassy areas whatsoever, especially in between each campsite. You won't find any grassy areas or any grass dividing the individual parking spots or even behind the campers or the campsites. However, behind every campsite, other than the beach, you'll find a large sandy area. Again, there's no fire rings, but you can bring your own, and quite often in the evening, you'll see fire rings going throughout that area behind the individual campsites. Keep in mind, if you're lucky enough to have one of the very few beachfront campsites, it's very unlikely that you'll be permitted to have a fire ring. Now, most of these spots on the left are primarily tent sites or sites for very small campers. Uh, they're very short, so you don't have an awful lot of room, and they can be a little bit difficult to back into, but they're very convenient for a lot of people who just like to camp for the weekend. Now, next to the building on the left, you'll find the camp host. Also, there's a lot of information that you can get as far as local events, places to see, and there's also a little station that you can get air for your bicycle tires and tools to repair your bike, as well as some potable water as well. Antenna TV or local TV channel is only fair, but actually, when you come over to Grand Haven State Park to camp, you're not there to sit in your camper and watch TV. Since there's very narrow roads and very limited access and everything's one way, it's not uncommon to get backed up behind somebody who's either pulling in or pulling out. I have to add that even though the spots are very small and it's highly congested, especially during the summer months, this park has got so much to offer as far as beach views and water views that it makes it well worth it. The access to the beach, the water, the pier, and all the sites nearby is just unbelievable. And yes, you got to kind of deal with a little bit of closeness between the spots, but you're not far from a great view and a lot of entertainment. If you have never been to Lake Michigan, you must come to see it. People that we've brought here that have never seen Lake Michigan are simply blown away by just such a large body of water. It's like being oceanside with no salt and no sharks. But don't let that fool you. It can be a very wicked beast when it comes to bad weather. Here's a little look at the campground from the pier. I believe because of the riptides that the red flags were out on this particular day. It's not uncommon sometimes for waves to get as high as 8 to 10 to even 12 feet high. On those particular days, it's extremely dangerous, and they actually close down the pier so you can't walk out onto it. Because the waves will actually come over and wash you right off into the water off the pier. There are some hardy individuals that actually do quite a bit of surfing, not only on regular surfboards, but on kiteboards. Actually, if you're stupid enough to get into the water when you're not supposed to and you get into trouble, the surfers are the ones that are most likely to pull you out and rescue you. Here's another shot of the lake from the pier. Here's a shot of a couple of Coast Guard rescue boats going out to do a patrol. Occasionally you can watch them train in the channel. Overall, the lake is probably one of the most beautiful sights that you'll ever see. It can be very calm and very peaceful, yet provide you with some of the most spectacular sunsets that you'll ever see, some of which you can compare next to any ocean view sunset in Florida or any place else along the coast. Very relaxing just to sit on the pier and watch the boats go up and down the channel at dawn or dusk. You'll see them go out just before the sun starts to set, and then after they've watched the sunset from the lake, then they'll be coming back through the channel back to the marinas. Now the catwalk on the pier has just been refurbished. So this year in 2020 it's just opened up to the public so they can get full view and enjoyment of the old catwalk. The catwalk runs from the beginning of the pier all the way out to the second lighthouse. Of course, I have to give you some examples of the sunset over Lake Michigan from Grand Haven overlooking the pier. I apologize for this video to be a little bit on the long side, but I really wanted to cram a lot into this just to give you an idea of what the real beauty is in Grand Haven. I hope you enjoyed this look at Grand Haven State Park, and Grand Haven State Park Campground. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And most of all, thanks for watching.